À Gary, en Indiana, dans une famille extraordinairement talentueuse. Élevés selon les principes des témoins de Jéhovah, les jeunes enfants sont formés par un père ambitieux. Rapidement, 5 garçons, y compris Michael, forment un groupe familial de chanteurs.
He was in a whole another world when he's on stage. Even as a young kid, he was. You can tell that they followed him. Even at 6 and 7 years old, you could see them. You go to see them on the show. Michael was in charge.
The brothers were integral to the whole thing, and I'm sure teen girls of the day each had their own favorite Jackson. But you know, Michael, I don't think the spotlight could have gone on anybody but Michael Jackson, even at that point.
I remember one time they did a show at Beckman, and Michael was just, man, I knew right then and there. That little boy, he was, and he's younger than I am, but he was just doing things that a little boy is not supposed to do. You know, I mean, they were polished. Back in the 60s, I think most families, Joe Jackson, my father as well, all of them worked in the steel mill. The thing that Joe Jackson did was able to bring his family out of poverty and have them do something that they love to do. I take my hat off to him. He brought them out of a situation that almost everybody in Gary and in Chicago and Detroit region was going through.
Ils se produisent dans diverses manifestations locales, des radios crochets et des écoles, y compris à Beckman High School où Germaine était élève. En 1963, Michael, avec une voix aiguë remarquable, devient le chanteur leader du groupe.
We did a show with the Jackson 5, and also I said we went to the same school, so you pass them up and down the hallway. I didn't know who they were until they dropped their first 45. The name of it was Big Boy on an independent label called Steel Town. When that record was released on a local radio, you know, local around Chicago, Indiana area, everybody flocked and bought it. I mean, by the droves, bought it.
Après le succès de Big Boy, les Jackson 5 sont repérés par le légendaire label de Détroit, Motown. Les frères Jackson sont le coup de cœur de Berry Gordy, l'homme qui a fondé et préside ce label.
The label had moved from being this really reliable, pop machine almost, cranking out hits, to a situation where we had artists like Marvin Gaye, who were beginning to expand their horizons, and Stevie Wonder, who were getting away from the strict pop kind of thing. And it was clear that, Motown was slowing down in that way. There wasn't a top 10 hit every week anymore. And along comes the Jackson 5 and Berry Gordy with his magic touch.
Ainsi, la famille Jackson signa avec Motown au moment idéal.
First time I heard I Want You Back, I just loved it, and I just loved the sound of it. It had a sound that I had never heard before.
I knew they were going to make it. It would have been Motown, it would have been somebody else, but they just had that and what really set them apart was the showmanship. At the age of 6 years old, Michael was doing splits and doing things that, doing the James, back in the day, you used to do the James Brown. It used to be a dance called the James Brown. Just swinging your feet through like James Brown, you had it down. So yeah, I knew they were gonna make it.
Le siège de Motown déménage en 1969 en Californie. La famille Jackson doit suivre. Maintenant installés à Encino, en Californie, les Jackson 5 sont confrontés à leur début à de nombreuses critiques.
The critics all hated the Jacksons because they were bubblegum. There were a lot of protest songs going on, and they said that, because of the Vietnam War and all of the civil rights, and they said the Jacksons weren't relevant.
You're always on my mind. Find another place to hide.
They weren't singing about war. They weren't singing about protest. They were singing about love. I want you back. Stop the love you save. ABC. Never can say goodbye. Well, we've since discovered how relevant they became. They said they weren't going to last. So, once again, the critics were wrong.
Un autre frère, Randy, remplace Jermaine et les Jackson 5 deviennent les Jacksons. La Motown étant propriétaire du nom du groupe. Jermaine, qui s'est récemment marié avec la fille de Berry Gordy, reste à la Motown en tant qu'artiste solo. Bien qu'apportant du sang neuf au label, l'union des Jackson 5 et de la Motown dure peu et il signe bientôt un nouveau contrat avec Epic, un label de CBS.
Well, as you recall, the war ended, I believe, in 74, 75. The troops, for the most part, pulled out of Vietnam. 75 was the year that the Jacksons left Motown, 75 or 76, and moved to CBS.
Ce changement laisse les frères libres des contraintes supportées sous l'autorité de la Motown et leur vraie carrière commence.
The significant was to be able to freely write the songs that you want to write and to grow as songwriters. They didn't want to continue writing, back then we called it bubblegum. They didn't want to continue writing that. For me, it was just the second coming of the Jacksons. It was just a more mature Jackson. It was writing, producing, you had a chance to hear and listen to what they wanted to do. And at that particular time, I think that's how Michael developed his skills as far as being a good songwriter and producer.
Dès cet instant, le monde commence à réaliser l'étendue et la profondeur de la créativité musicale de Michael.
I'd like to say thank you very much.
What Motown taught Michael Jackson is melody and the way rhythm works with melody in a pop format. You know, he was a guy who, because of what Motown was groomed with a pop sense, and that's something that you know, shone through on Thriller and all those big albums that he went on to make in the 80s and 90s.
La famille donne des spectacles dans le monde entier. Sam Brown devient leur directeur musical au milieu des années 70.
Funny story, the first time I went out to the house, Michael always liked animals. And they had this macaw in the house, which I didn't know of. So I I buzz in and the gates open up and I go up this long driveway, drive up this long driveway, and I get out of my car and I go to the back door and I knock on the door. And I hear this voice say, "Who is it?" And I say, "This is Sam Brown. I'm here to see Joe and Michael." No response. So I knock again. "Who is it?" "Sam Brown. I'm here to see Joseph and Michael. You just buzzed me in." No response. Knock on the door again. "Who is it?" Well, it was the bird. And they were around the corner having a laugh. Michael and Jermaine and Jackie and Marlene were around the corner holding their noses to keep from laughing out loud.
The closeness of family, it gives you ability to know each other's voices 24/7, know who's going to do what. Any song you're singing, you're able to sing in harmony if you want to. Versus a group that's put together, a family group, they're more at ease on stage, number one, and more at ease at rehearsal. There's no ego.
Now tell me, what do you think is the success of the Jacksons, yourself and the Jacksons?
I would say probably togetherness, or Just enjoying our work a lot. Putting a lot of love into it, all our effort.
Où qu'ils aillent, les Jackson sont accueillis par un public frénétique qui les suit avec acharnement.
When we were in Caracas, Venezuela, and we were playing a soccer stadium that held 60,000 people, and we were downstairs in the dressing rooms, and the walls are concrete, you know, with this lime green paint on the walls. All of a sudden, we heard this, oh, 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 oh.